Looking back, it is clear that the Thanos snap wiped out not only half of the universe, but also half of the Marvel audience. The Russo brothers left a brilliant hint in the movie, and audiences are only now gradually returning for Spider-Man and Avengers Doomsday. But a lot of water has flowed under the bridge within the universe itself. Specifically, it is currently the year 2028 over there, and a whopping 5 years have passed since Tony's second snap. Skip the Ms. Marvel series and the other wonderful projects of the Multiverse Saga. No worries, we did the heavy lifting for you. Over the next 20 minutes, we will break down exactly what happened within the universe during these years in chronological order. With just this one video, you will be fully prepped for both Spider-Man and Avengers without having to suffer through She-Hulk. We will also refresh your memory on the events of other movies and shows, and most importantly, in chronological order, showing how they unfolded one after another within the universe and influenced each other. This is extremely important for future movies, so we think we have earned your like on this video, as well as a comment about which Multiverse Saga project you consider the best. It all kicked off in the fall of 2023, following the end of the finale and Tony Stark's snap. Chronologically, the first major moment actually comes from a completely different universe, because the events of the movie X-Men Days of Future Past took place at the end of 2023. In the original timeline, back in 2023, the Sentinel robots wiped out all mutants. The survivor sent Wolverine back to change the past, which he successfully did, creating an alternate timeline where, waking up in 2023, he found Cyclops, Jean Grey, Storm, and other familiar faces from the original lineup alive and well. It is highly likely that we will be shown this exact universe in Avengers Doomsday. Given that the events of Avengers will take place in 2028, it turns out that 5 years will have passed in their world after that happy ending for the mutants. What has been going on there during those 5 years is something we will find out in Avengers Doomsday. Meanwhile, in the main Marvel universe, the events of the series WandaVision managed to unfold at the end of 2023. Shocked by Vision's death, Scarlet Witch takes over the town of Westview and unconsciously turns it into a sitcom where Vision is alive and the actors play their forced roles. They even have children, while the government watches everything from behind a protective barrier, along the way assembling a new version of the android from the remains of the real Vision. Of course, this new Vision operates only under strictly defined parameters, with access to emotions restricted for security reasons. Inside the town, it is revealed that another witch was behind it all, Agatha, who reveals her plan to a catchy tune and is defeated by Wanda in an incredibly cheap and highly criticized finale with weak visual effects. Both Visions also get their share of strange special effects, where the real Vision wirelessly transfers his memories to the restricted version. She flies off in an unknown direction and will return with her own series in October of this year. As for Wanda, realizing the scale of the suffering she caused, she releases the people, sacrificing the virtual Vision and her kids. After all, she is good at heart. Well, wait, maybe not entirely good. Already in the post-credits scene, we see the Scarlet Witch reading the dark book Darkhold and hearing her children's voices, suspecting they might actually be real, and hinting at yet another turn to the dark side. It seems that because of this, actress Elizabeth Olsen will get so fed up that she will publicly criticize Marvel and end up blacklisted, vanishing from all of the studio's projects after the movie Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But chronologically, before that happens, another shockwave hits the universe. People across the globe are left speechless at the sight of Sam Wilson in a funny white suit as the new Captain America. The events of the series The Falcon and the Winter Soldier unfold 6 months after Tony's snap, at the beginning of 2024, and we are shown that Tony's snap is not exactly a happy ending. Half of the returning population who were presumed dead need food and shelter, yet the half that survived the Thanos snap simply does not have the resources or the space. Situations arise where the home of someone who disappeared after the snap is already occupied, and nobody knows what to do about it. Trying to sort this all out is the Global Repatriation Council, a kind of equivalent to the United Nations, whose main idea is simply to deport everyone back to where they were prior to the Thanos snap. And for convenience, while apartments are being cleared out for everyone returning after the snap, they will build cozy, guarded camps. Strongly opposing this is the Flag Smashers organization, which believes this is unfair and that no one has the right to take away their right to blow things up. In fact, bombings, murders, and kidnappings are exactly what these radicals do, after which Sam Wilson tries to justify them. This starts some real nonsense where Marvel tried to make a series about complex morality. But it turned out that everyone was portrayed as completely irrational. One group wants to take away people's homes, while the other blows people up in protest. Meanwhile, Sam Wilson practically tries to make a hero out of a mass murderer and delivers a speech that sounds like it was generated by artificial intelligence, making absolutely no sense whatsoever. As a result, the Global Repatriation Council agreed to concessions that we were never shown. The Radicals agreed to concessions that we were never shown. And Marvel never went back to this topic ever again. Oh right, for a few episodes, John Walker, with his model cop attitude, was handed Captain America's shield, which he quickly used to beat a criminal to death right in front of cameras before returning the shield to Sam Wilson. As for Bucky, he was only in the show to make awkward jokes and dialogues and to apologize to the Black Captain America, whom, as it turned out, the United States government had also created. But they gave all the credit to the bad Steve Rogers. Along the way, the series What If was also released, where Tony Stark was shown as the bad guy in every other episode. In this way, trying to mimic Christopher Nolan, they attempted to plant the idea in fans' minds that Tony and Steve did bad things, and that now we have the correct modern versions of these characters. The result is a box office flop and the return of both veterans in Avengers Doomsday. As for the timeline, the next movie was Shang-Chi, also taking place about 6 months after Tony's snap, right after the events of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. No one even remembers the Global Repatriation Council. Life goes on as usual, and the fact that people were being blown up all over the world a week ago is of absolutely no concern to a simple valet named Sean, though he turns out not to be Sean, but Shang-Chi, who fled from his tyrannical Asian billionaire father. His father is the real Mandarin and the owner of the 10 rings from Iron Man. Throughout the whole movie, Shang-Chi is trying not to kill his father, not to die himself, and to explain to his friend Katie why a movie about a Chinese superhero was banned from release in China. The reason lies in an old interview with Simu Liu, where he fell out of favor with the Chinese public by sharing that life in China was poor and Canada gave him a better life. They punish such words very severely over there, so the Marvel project designed for an Asian audience was never released in Asia's main market and became a financial flop. Simu Liu's career was also up in the air after this, but he showed flexibility, restored his reputation, and will appear in Avengers Doomsday. And by the way, the movie actually turned out to be good. It wraps up by the summer of 2024, right when 2 Spider-Man movies kick off. You probably remember them vividly. First, after Tony's death, Peter headed to Europe to confess his feelings to a classmate, only to be deceived by Mysterio, who also exposed his secret identity. Afterward, Peter convinced Doctor Strange to help, ultimately erasing everyone's memories of him, including his closest friends and family. Throughout the movie, Marvel also kept hinting at something big coming in the future by showing the Statue of Liberty repainted to look like Captain America's shield. But what that was actually for remains a mystery to this day. Right after that, chronologically, in the fall and winter of 2024, things got incredibly busy at Marvel. 3 projects were released at once, the first of which was Eternals, a movie about a group of immortal, all-powerful, legendary beings who sat on Earth for 7,000 years doing absolutely nothing. Hitler, come back tomorrow. The Chitauri invasion, well, we have our own things to do. Thanos wiped out half of the universe. Sorry, it is our day off. We are not working today. These heroes only gather for family dinners because family matters trump everything else. And during one of these dinners, they learn that Earth is actually just an incubator for a cosmic giant named Tiamat, who will destroy the planet upon birth. This kicks off a dragged-out drama about depressed immortals, where one wants to follow orders, others want to intervene, and Kit Harington is just dreaming of finally finding a successful role after Game of Thrones. As a result, Icarus, as if unable to bear the bizarre plot points, flies into the sun to die, while Earth is saved at the last second, after which its inhabitants do not care for years that a continent-sized stone god is literally sticking out of the Indian Ocean. Absolutely no one brings him up, since everyone is focused on the upcoming New Year's Eve of 2025. This period is covered in the series Hawkeye, which shows Clint Barton as a weary Batman who kept criminals terrified for the entire 5 years following the Thanos snap. The past catches up with Clint in the form of a copycat, Kate Bishop, and the new Black Widow, Yelena Belova, who was tricked into being sent to kill Clint. As it turned out, Valentina Allegra, a suspicious Central Intelligence Agency official, was working with Wilson Fisk, and by lying to Yelena that Clint killed Natasha, she wanted to eliminate an inconvenient Avenger. The plan failed, and in the finale, a 30-kilogram Kate Bishop with no superpowers defeats a 300-kilogram Kingpin. And Clint Barton retires because he could not reach a salary agreement for a second season, although now he claims they made a deal and a continuation is apparently on the table. Parallel to this chronologically, at the end of 2024, the events of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness unfolded, where Marvel suddenly remembered that the Multiverse Saga was actually happening and decided to throw in at least some multiverse elements. It turned out decent with the Illuminati, whom Scarlet Witch, acting like a Terminator, quickly slaughtered. Otherwise, the movie established the concept of multiverse incursions and how worlds, governed by mysterious laws, begin to collide and destroy each other. Scarlet Witch ended up crushed under massive debris, but later in a comic, Marvel showed that Wanda survived and is currently in a holding pattern, much like Captain America once was. Doctor Strange himself met Clea, played by Charlize Theron, who openly admitted that she has no idea who this character is and why she is even needed in Marvel. And Kevin Feige started thinking for the first time that something had to be done with the universe. It was decided to use the Loki series as a template, which became a rare exception. The project was both loved by audiences and pulled in massive viewership numbers. Chronologically, both seasons take place outside of time, but in reality, both unfold somewhere around 2024, because Loki and Sylvie definitely start their journey to Kang right after Tony's snap, and they finish with Loki transforming into the god of stories right before Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, since that is exactly when the incursions start. In the process, Loki gets acquainted with cosmic bureaucracy and the all-powerful Kang, who becomes a victim of a sudden betrayal and also fulfills his lifelong dream of ascending the throne, but with a catch, since the throne guarantees a life of complete isolation. Here, we should make a note about the multiverse as a whole and what changed after Loki's coronation. There is a misunderstanding here. During the first season of Loki, the Time Variance Authority did not prune every single timeline that differed from the sacred timeline, even if it seemed that way. In reality, they only deleted those where history took a drastically different turn. For example, the timeline where Loki is a woman named Sylvie was not pruned until she grew up and began threatening the Order. Had she behaved just like the male Loki, her timeline would have survived just fine. This means the multiverse existed, but with minor differences. The primary goal was to ensure Kang the Conqueror was born as Victor Timely and, limited by the technology of the past, could not wage a multiversal war. After his coronation, Loki changed the rules and made the multiverse freer, which led to the birth of Kang variants and the post-credits scene of Quantumania. Not everyone within the Time Variance Authority was happy about this, and in Deadpool and Wolverine, Agent Paradox's group rebelled against Loki, which got them arrested at the end of the movie after Hugh Jackman showcased his excellent physical form. Also, in the third Deadpool, using Loki's new relaxed rules, the Fox universe is saved, and Hugh Jackman becomes its anchor, Wolverine. Whether this is the same universe as in X-Men Days of Future Past and Avengers Doomsday, only time will tell. And with that, the year 2024 wrapped up for Marvel. Thus began a wild 2025, where the first project was Moon Knight, in which Marvel decided to deliver a psychological thriller about a man with deep anxieties rather than a standard superhero story. It turned out great, but only in the context of the character. From the perspective of the universe, it was a complete mess, because it turned out that besides the Eternals, Egyptian gods also exist in the world. And they did not care at all about Thanos or the Chitauri. You could wind back time by thousands of years, and Doctor Strange wouldn't even notice. And of course, absolutely no one cared about the sudden appearance of a giant stone body on Earth. They tried to briefly mention this in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which unfolds right after in 2025. Granted, they did not go beyond earthquakes and underground tremors. Other than that, it turned out that in Marvel, underwater-dwelling Talokanils also exist, and they did not care about the Chitauri or the Thanos snap either. Wakanda fights them to keep them from waging war on the rest of the world. Shuri goes through heavy emotional trauma, accepts the mantle of Black Panther, and, as expected, delivers a speech about peace and forgives Namor after a massive battle. Meanwhile, no one is handing vibranium over to the United Nations. Next in the chronology is the oversaturation of the cinematic universe with a whole bunch of shows. In Echo, Marvel tries to remind us that street-level crime still exists, bringing back Kingpin. In She-Hulk, Marvel tries to remind us that women have it harder in this world than Hulk does. In Ms. Marvel, they remind us that Disney bought Fox 7 years ago, and that mutants exist in this world. And in Ironheart, they show that Tony Stark was just a lucky inventor, and any African-American girl can duplicate his success. Overall, except for She-Hulk, everything on this list is watchable. The issue is not with the projects themselves, but with their placement within the universe. The most controversial project on this list was Secret Invasion, where Marvel, taking on a major title, decided to spend $250 million adapting one of the most famous comic series, but was so afraid of breaking the status quo that everyone just tiredly spies on each other in dark rooms, while the villain collects Avengers blood samples like a rare collection. In the finale, Emilia Clarke's character gets the powers of literally all the Avengers at once, becoming the most powerful being in Marvel, while the world is informed about the existence of aliens, and absolutely nothing happens. Just like with the sleeping god in the ocean, everyone simply does not care. Moving on. Even Chris Hemsworth is trying to forget the movie Thor 4, which takes place later in 2025. Taika Waititi was once praised for the humor in Thor Ragnarok, and as a result, he delivered a rather ridiculous comedy with questionable jokes. A comedy featuring screaming goats, goofy Greek gods, and a Thor who has completely lost his usual mind. In the plot's finale, Jane Foster heads to Valhalla. Christian Bale's Gore dies, seemingly unable to bear such a ridiculous end for his character. Thor adopts his daughter and becomes a loving father. But wait, there is more, because the events of the Marvels unfold at the same time, showing that Carol Danvers did not save the universe from Thanos because she was busy resolving interplanetary conflicts. And she resolved them so successfully that large-scale disasters erupted across the universe. They prevent them with the help of Monica Rambeau from WandaVision and Ms. Marvel. But in the process, Monica ends up in the X-Men universe and meets Beast. One of Marvel's worst years in terms of quality is wrapped up by a nice addition in the form of the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, where they save Christmas. A pricey Christmas holiday special that made more sense than half of the series. Mantis is revealed as Star-Lord's sister, and we are reminded that he is depressed following Gamora's death. This is actually where the year 2026 begins within the cinematic universe. The movie Guardians of the Galaxy 3 became the first chronological film of the year, and a project where Marvel suddenly stopped joking and remembered that Rocket is the result of horrific experiments. While fighting the High Evolutionary, the team meets a new version of Gamora. Drax turns out to be an excellent adoptive father, and Rocket becomes the leader. By the end of the movie, the team goes their separate ways. Rocket and Groot join a new lineup of Guardians alongside Adam Warlock. Star-Lord returns to Earth while Gamora goes her own way, and according to Zoe Saldana, we will not see her in the role again. The next project chronologically is Wonder Man, a surprisingly dynamic series that actually has some weight in the wider universe. It showed that superheroes have already become a commonplace reality and part of the bureaucracy. There is a prison for them run by the Damage Control Organization, which keeps tabs on everything. They also wrapped up the storyline of the fake Mandarin, Trevor Slattery, and overall delivered a better setup for Spider-Man 4 than Daredevil and Punisher managed, let alone Quantumania. Yes, indeed, the events of the third Ant-Man movie, released back in 2023, chronologically take place in the middle of 2026. Scott Lang lives as an internet celebrity but accidentally ends up in the quantum realm, which was not fully rendered due to a visual effects artist strike, where he faces the most powerful version of Kang, who is apparently so powerful that he loses a fight to the Ant-Man family. And this raises a fair question. How did Kevin Feige plan to turn this guy into an Avengers-level threat? Even the post-credits scene with 1,000 Kangs did not help much. If the strongest one was beaten by Ant-Man, then Thor can easily take out this entire crowd with one hand tied behind his back, right? This is exactly when they decided to throw in the towel and go groveling back to Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. And the fact that actor Jonathan Majors got caught up in an ugly scandal over an altercation with his girlfriend actually turned out to be a bit of a bonus for Feige. He did not have to wrap up this failed storyline. In this same year of 2026, the fallout of WandaVision chronologically unfolded in Agatha All Along. There, after losing to Scarlet Witch, Agatha gathers a coven of misfit witches and leads them on a road to redemption. Meanwhile, we see that one of Wanda's sons, Billy, somehow survived. Ultimately, Marvel brings magic and the Dark Book back into the main plot 5 years after everyone forgot about them. With that, the quiet year of 2026 ends and 2027 begins. Wilson Fisk survived being shot in the face and became the mayor of New York. A maniacal supervillain does not bother the city's residents in the slightest, as they happily elect him mayor. The surprising plot twist is that Kingpin suddenly starts stealing while in office, which brings Daredevil back into action. And a major clash begins, or rather, its beginning is announced, because between the two seasons, the events of a whopping 2 movies manage to unfold. In the first one, Captain America: Brave New World, Sam Wilson and the United States as a whole do not care at all that a convicted mobster is running New York. Everyone is busy turning superheroes into a state-controlled resource. The president, played by Harrison Ford, tries to recruit Sam Wilson, and in the process, after 3 years, everyone finally remembers the giant god sticking out of the ground. Inside him, they discover adamantium, kicking off a political race to seize control of it. Sam Wilson keeps the world from going crazy, prevents a war, and fights the president, who has transformed into Red Hulk. Simply because Marvel cannot end a single conflict without a giant computer-generated behemoth destroying real estate. Next up is Thunderbolts, where Valentina Allegra, who sponsors Wilson Fisk, creates the super soldier Sentry out of a former drug addict. As a countermeasure, a misfit team of Thunderbolts is assembled to stand against her. In the end, they all have to team up to face the dark entity of Sentry, the Void, which plunges half of New York into nightmares and commits mass murders. The superheroes, accustomed to ignoring global events, do not show up to save the day, and in the end, the Void has to be defeated by an unexpectedly solid plot. At the end, Valentina Allegra gets away clean, cuts ties with Fisk, and introduces the Thunderbolts as her own creation and the new team of Avengers, which sparks a conflict with Sam Wilson, who supposedly has his own team too, though it remains unclear who is actually on it. This is where the events of the second season of Daredevil Born Again kick off, where Kingpin's empire starts to crumble even without backing from the Central Intelligence Agency. With the help of Jessica Jones, Matt Murdock defeats his eternal rival, whom Spider-Man, the New Avengers, and Sam Wilson's Avengers do not care about in the slightest. He wins beautifully in court, but ends up behind bars himself, where he remains as of 2028 and the start of Spider-Man 4. The Punisher has other things on his plate. In his own special, he battles post-traumatic stress disorder and ultimately turns into a brutal, yet duty-bound anti-hero. Meanwhile, after that, closer to the middle of 2028, the New Avengers encounter the Fantastic Four ship from another reality. They lived entirely in their own timeline with Dr. Doom, and officially it is unclear what made them venture into the convoluted plot of the main universe. Rumor has it that Steve Rogers, who moved to their universe to live with Peggy Carter after the events of the finale, caused the collision of the two worlds. We will have to wait and see how it plays out. But in any case, Captain America shouldn't be blamed too much. The incursion of the Fantastic Four universe would have happened even without him, just with some other reality. No matter how you look at it, the real culprit is Sylvie, who killed the Kang variant and unleashed the multiverse, creating the destabilization mechanism. Doctor Strange took advantage of this, interfering with other worlds 100 times, and Spider-Man's hands are not exactly clean either. So right now, all hope lies with Loki, who is trying his best to hold the world tree together and keep everything under control. Right around here, either shortly before the meeting of the New Avengers and the Fantastic Four, or even after, the events of the movie Spider-Man 4 will unfold. And the movie Avengers Doomsday has obviously already kicked off with this very post-credits scene. The action will unfold in a highly unstable universe with a dozen unresolved storylines. What is going on with Sharon Carter, who became the power broker? Who will end up with the adamantium? Will they resurrect Scarlet Witch? Where did Doctor Strange go with Clea 4 years ago? Is it normal for White Vision to be taking a break for 5 years? The Eternals, after being punished for non-intervention, honestly could not come up with anything smarter than to keep on not intervening. And where on earth is Marvel's strongest character right now? The one from Secret Invasion? Today, the cinematic universe feels like a lagging browser with 50 open tabs that is overloading the computer. It looks like Kevin Feige could not think of anything better than to just turn off the lights in the whole house and start from scratch. And although, who knows, maybe we will get answers to some of these questions. But that is a different story, and we will be keeping an eye on it. So do not forget to drop a like, support the video with a comment, and see you next time, friends.